So.
Oh.
Hi.
Hey there.
We just watched the UN speech by Emma Watson.
It's terrible. It's really, really, really bad. Um, Probably, I can't really remember the Harry Potter films. What was she like in them?
She was like,
Pretty good?
her whoops, her character was actually. It's funny because she said she got called bossy, and
Character was bossy?
her character was her character was supposed to be bossy. It wasn't. It was supposed to be a strong female lead because she was one of the main characters,
Hmm.
but she was like bossy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've called you and your brother bossy at different times, haven't I?
Yeah.
Because bossy is if you're bossing people around.
Yeah.
If you're being whingy, I call you both whingy if you're being whingy. It's not a gendered term. Something that both men, women, boys, and girls can make, but they're trying to say that women, they can't make bossy. Girls aren't allowed to be bossy. They're not allowed to be called bossy because what will happen to you, Suzannah, if you get called bossy? You'll dry up and
Yeah.
fall into a heap. But okay, look, my
You're probably being called bossy for a reason.
it's probably a good reason.
And if you're being called whingy, it's probably for a good reason.
And you know what? There are times when I know that I've called you and told you off for being bossy, and then I've told your brother off for um, for having to be bossed around because he's being lazy or he's being incompetent or whatever. And so I say, stop bossing, and you stop doing this and getting her to look after you. She shouldn't be looking after you.
Yeah.
You should be looking after yourself. Grow up, So,
yeah.
I don't think that people should be unfair, but at the same time being called bossy. But gee, that was only just the tip of the iceberg with this speech.
The thing is, I think a lot of feminists get confused, and I've actually researched this myself. Feminists get confused by feminism and humanism. Humanism is basically like equality for both genders. Feminism says they're equality for both genders, but a lot of the things they say about men online, they consider them to like they consider them to be like anti-feminist, which is it's a matter of opinion. Like honestly, if you want to be a feminist, that's cool. If you want to be a humanist, that's cool. If you want to be an anti-feminist, that's cool. It really shouldn't be made a big deal unless there's legitimate proof that you've been paid less. Like, Dad told me, and I totally agree with this. Like, this is a matter of my opinion, so this isn't being forced on to me. It's
looking around in society.
Yeah. How do I put this? You're probably being paid like they're talking about the overall women, how much they get paid compared to the overall men. Men do a lot more jobs that require, and I'm not saying women don't do these jobs, but there's far less. Like in builders, construction, mining, all those hard labor jobs.
And all the ones with risk.
Yeah, all the ones with risk. Women aren't recommended to do that because we basically give birth to the next generation. We have to and I'm not saying that all women are wanting to have children because I certainly don't. Yeah. But that I might change my mind later, but I really doubt it. That wouldn't mind either way. A lot of women would it's just recommended not to go on those jobs. So if you want to go on those jobs, there's nothing stopping you, and then you'll get paid a lot more, and also you will probably get the overall percentage up for women.
Oh yeah.
So I don't really see what the problem was. I mean, yeah, I would get there was inequality in the early 1900s and etc. But now we're becoming a more civilized society. I'm sorry, we're becoming more equal, and I don't really see what the problem is, but I don't know if there is. You can comment down below, because I honestly don't see what the problem is.
To be perfectly honest, I mean, I think you're dead right. I think what what has happened is the average wage. It's not you get a job with a male and female get the same job in the same place, start at the same time, get the same pay. Boom. There's no gender inequality there. If a man and woman, a woman works in say teaching, and a man decides, okay, well, I'll get a job working as a an oil rig miner, or just working.
They won't get the same pay.
They're not going to get the same pay. The guy's going to get higher pay
because it's more risk, and
guys are prepared to do
longer hours.
They're prepared to do more remote work, jobs which are more risky. You could probably find uh, high-rise building window cleaners who are female.
Yeah.
But I'm betting
it's quite
the
uncommon.
percentage is going to be with the male. You could probably find people women who work in oil rigs. I'm sure you can, but it's not going to favour the women. And there's nothing preventing the women from doing it.
Yeah.
Now, are women more likely to choose jobs which are more family friendly, better hours, closer to their home, and less risk, less physical exertion, less physical danger, workplace accidents and injuries? 95% of deaths and injuries in the workplace are with men. Why? For exactly the same reason: choice. Now, unless feminists are quite happy to police the choice that women make, if they're quite happy to say, okay, you've just finished university, right, you're now going to become a high-rise window washer, okay? Don't care what you really wanted to do. Oh, you wanted to become a psychologist? I'm very sorry. You just write up that building now. Unless they're prepared to do that and say, okay, well, we need you to become a specialist in this field. Oh, you didn't want that field? Oh, I'm terribly sorry. We need more women in that field. That's where you're going. You're in IT, but I don't care if you had that degree in sociology. You're now an IT expert. Unless they're prepared to do that, and feminists aren't, then they can't give women a hard time for making the choices that they want to make. If Suzannah here wants to become a brickie, I'm going to support her. I'm going to do everything that I can in order to help her become a brickie. Now, I don't know if down the track she'll want to be a brickie, but if she is, she gets my full support, and I'll defend any flack that she cops for that. And she'll have laws for her for discrimination in the event that she does get systematically bullied.
And also, if you are a woman and there's another man, and you both work the same hours, you both have the same job, like exactly the same job, everything same, but you do get paid less. You should probably talk to the company about that. I'm sure it's a mistake, but honestly, you're probably not getting paid less, and if you are, it's probably because you don't work overtime, or you take more sick days, or you're or something like that, because a lot of it will be more unlikely that you are actually getting paid less.
And I mean, it also, in addition to that, a lot of women who work in for companies will work in payroll. Now, if you're paying women less, and women have access to the payroll records and can see that the males are getting paid more and the women getting paid less. Well, wouldn't they just be all taken to court because there'd be class actions everywhere?
Exactly.
In addition to that, for a company, why would they hire men? They can hire women for less. Why wouldn't they just hire women?
Exactly.
Makes more sense. I mean, and companies will want to take their business offshore. They'll want to take it overseas to where it's cheaper because they can hire people for cheaper there. Companies will make those type of decisions. So if they're not hiring all women and they're hiring a mix of men and women, there's a good chance that they're actually paying the same.
Yeah.
In the event that they're not, then there's laws there to protect women and men. I mean, if they're underpaying men for exactly the same reason, that should be. Now, Emma Watson, with the speech that she gave, he for she, something inherently wrong about that, don't you think?
That title itself.
He for she. You men, we're going to talk about this problem about women needing to be empowered and women needing this or that or the other bloody thing and not to be called bossy or what the hell was she talking about? Anyhow, so we need stuff done. Now we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk a lot about it. You guys, we're going to galvanise you, you men. You have to rally to us. Feminism has got a bad name. You've got to defend us. You've got to.
And it's funny because feminism is becoming more and more of an issue, and she's saying it's quite uncommon. It's actually becoming a lot more of an issue now. Like a few years ago, probably would have rised up in the conversation like occasionally, but now they're starting to take it more and more because they're I'm not gonna say brainwashed, but they're they're talking to them more. They're talking to their children about it, and I understand that you want to give like your opinion to your children so they can see where you're coming from and they can agree with you and discuss it with you. I get that. Like Dad discusses with me a lot of time about like religion for example. Um, my dad's an atheist. I'm a Christian, and he does say a lot of convincing stuff, like his belief with evolution and everything like that. I can see evidence about that, but honestly, I just believe there is a God. I believe someone did create the Earth. But this, and I get it, you just want to discuss, but you really shouldn't force your children to believe something.
Exactly.
For a long time, keep. It's gonna sound so sexist of me, even though I'm a woman. You don't nag your children about it. And, I mean, you gotta give them different opinions. Sorry, the computer keeps turning off. You gotta give them different opinions.
Exactly right. And, no, you did right.
And you can, you can see, they can decide if they want to be anti-feminist, humanist, feminist.
What my fear is that feminism is very much indoctrinated in the schooling. It's backed up through media. It's certainly very much informed through the courts and what have you there. Now, my personal opinion, I'm a humanist. I believe in equality of the sexes. I want the opportunities for my daughter and for my son to be exactly the same. I want them to have the same rights. I don't want society to look down on them. The thing with feminism is that they drive this victim narrative, and they make girls and women feel that they're up against it, that they have no agency, they have no ability to.
Yeah, you're talking about this in the car. How you make a lot of feminists, what they do is I'm sorry, I keep saying you might be humanist, I don't care, but they see um what they do is they make women appear weak as the start of the conversation, and then they'll be like, oh, but that's only because of the males and stuff, so we're gonna empower you and stuff, even though they probably wouldn't have really thought that it was really an issue.
Exactly.
So
It's and it's a little bit sick, really. It's taking women down, giving them all their insecurities, their fears, their hang-ups. They're they're working on them. They're making these women who might otherwise feel perfectly fine and saying the world is against you. The world is set up by this invisible bugbear we call patriarchy, which is going to hurt you.
mm,
It's all of the things that you think are unfair about the world, you can relate back to patriarchy. Do that to all these women and young girls, and what you get is these girls feeling terribly insecure, feeling disempowered, feeling like they have no agency of their own. They have no ability to better things. They're perpetual victim. They're oppressed. And who are they trying to get? Ironically, who are they trying to get power from? Men.
yeah.
Okay. No, I'm not having Suzannah dependent on any man. I'm not having her dependent on a system or fearing that she's having to rely on what men can give her. No, no, she's going to be far better than that in life, and she's not going to be spending her time, worrying about, how the men in her life that love her and respect her are oppressing her or trying to bring her down.
Yeah.
She's not going to be worried that uh, the everyone's conspiring against her. It is just a bit of a sick kind of concept. And yes, there's going to be people in the world, and some of them will be male, who will bully, who will use um, gendered insults, who will um, be mean, who will try and get one over her. In some instances, it will be because of her sex. Sometimes it will be because they don't like her. Um, Trying to relate all of these things and turn it all into a victim narrative which is pointedly against men is certainly not equality.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's not that. And unfortunately, with Emma Watson's speech that we just saw, there's a lot of that going on.
Mm.
And she's saying, well, my friends when they're 18, my male friends couldn't express their feelings, couldn't express them or couldn't express them in the way that Emma knows expression, emotional expression. Men aren't as good with emotional expression. We
Because
express in different ways.
we was man, men were so brought up in society to put women first.
Mm-hmm.
You can see back in the 1800s, uh, the reason why they didn't give, mm, was it the 1700s? I don't know.
Yes, in 1800s,
Somewhere
around there,
around there, around that era.
they didn't have.
They didn't give women jobs because they just wanted to look after them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I get that women now they'll be like, oh, I can totally do mining and stuff. That's great, good for you. And I'm not saying that in a sarcastic way, but back then they were looking after the children because a lot of the time, children would either die from infant birth, child, a childhood, or any other diseases. And so
Yep.
what they would do is they would just get the men to support the family and give them money and stuff.
Great
And
point.
women are saying that men were just being mean or something and not saying they can't get jobs because they're women. That's not the case. It goes deeper than that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of history revisionism with feminism, unfortunately.
And that's really good with history. So
Is they very much did do that. And you're spot on with what you're saying, but more so than that, they were uh, feminists say, oh well, it's not only the jobs, we didn't have rights. Okay, well, absolutely. And you know why? Because of a very fundamental thing, and it's nothing to do with slave-master relationships or owning of women or anything like that. And that's just a complete victim narrative again that feminists like to spew. What it actually is that if you cast your mind back to those times, and this is the only way society could have worked, is that men in those times had to take on the burden of looking after a family. If every family in the village has had at least a child or two has died, either in
That's why
childbirth,
women will that's why women
looking after the kids.
they were trying to get more children because they just wanted one of them to grow up to be looked after and to be well. That's why they
Yeah,
gave birth a lot, and some women would even die. It wasn't because
very often.
of yeah, because they didn't have any medicine or anything. Uh, it wasn't because they were forced to. It was because they wanted their children to be successful in life. That's the only reason.
And I mean, it's a great way of looking at society and saying, back then they were all savages. Well, no, they weren't. And any feminist worth her weight in salt should have read the Jane Austen novels and should have seen what the the women were like there, and how families were. Every it was very much that the men were burdened. They were burdened with this financial responsibility and this responsibility to look after the children. If they were working in a job and your wife had another child, another mouth to feed, you might have to work more hours. You might have to find another job with harsher conditions or whatever there. Now, am I saying that men had it harder than women? Hell no. Women were dying.
Yeah,
Um, okay, they were closeted at home. They had no rights, which is absolutely right. They're closeted at home, and they were dying plentifully. Every time they got pregnant, they must have had a kernel, at least in their mind, just saying, this could be it. 9 months, I'm dead.
mm.
I've had two kids. I've risked it twice. I'm 3 or 4 years in a marriage. I'm now 20, and this one could be it. This could be my unlucky thing. My sister died 2 years ago on her second child. I'm on my third. What's going to happen?
Exactly.
Think of how horrid that is. But now let's look at the other side of the coin. Think of the husband thinking, oh my God, I've got two kids already. I'm 25, I've got two kids. I'm working all day in the mines. I'm coughing my guts up. With all the dust. I'm feeling old already. Um, and hell's bells, I've got another child here I have to support. How am I going to do this? What can I possibly tighten? What can I possibly do? Now, keeping on that track, you're the man, you've got all of these responsibilities. How are you going to discharge them? How are you going to meet all your obligations? You need something very important in order to give you all of those things. It's called rights.
Yeah.
You have to have the right to be able to make financial contracts uh, if you're going to take financial responsibility for the whole family. You have to have the right to hold a license if you need to drive a car. If you're not needing to drive a car, why the hell would you need a license?
Yeah, exactly.
If so, in all of these instances, the rights. People say, "Oh, well, the women had no rights." Yes, they didn't need rights. I'm sorry, it's a horrible truth, but it's absolutely true. They didn't have to take financial responsibility because they've been closeted at home. And you say, okay, well, how come they don't now then? Well, because in the 1930s, social security pensions and the like came out, so you didn't have to have three or four children to survive into adulthood,
Yeah.
to be able to look after you in old age. You didn't have to make that agreement with your husband. Okay, well, what about contraception? The contraceptive pill in the 1960s that helped. But what about the if you ask someone in their 90s, you're going to find out that polio, one of the last childhood diseases, was still affecting a lot of kids in there that they grew up with. you might find out that their grandparents, were afflicted with smallpox. These these diseases weren't, weren't recent phenomena. I mean, weren't uh, very far distant um, phenomena. Childhood diseases that were killing off kids by the bucket load have been culled out, and it's only these necessary steps that have allowed this progression. And now we have equal rights, and men, have realised this and have given them up. But society was always changing and coming closer to doing that, and for good reason. You think men really wanted their daughters, their wives, their mothers to be dying off in childbirth? Men have always tried to do the right thing by women as a gender, not as and systematically too. Now, do you get cases of rape and murder and domestic violence? Absolutely, both genders, men and women, and they're an abhorrent minority. I would quite happily have every rapist, man or woman, that had ever been be thrown into a pit with a couple of feral pigs. That would be a solution for me. I'm quite happy for them to be arrested and put in jail, and them to get whatever they get, um, so long as they're guilty. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's abhorrent, and no one supports that in society. There's no rape culture. There's no culture of domestic violence. There's none of that there.
And I gotta say, not all men are rapists and murderers and stuff. You gotta understand that not all men will insult women. Some are just complete douchebags. I get it.
Yeah.
Like, and some might break your hearts. Um, and yeah, I get that. But you gotta understand, your husband, your brother, your father are probably quite nice people, or
Yeah.
your cousins even, they and your friends. They're probably nice people, and they're probably nice for to you for a reason. It's not because you're a girl. It's because they actually like you for who you
Yeah.
are. You
Absolutely.
gotta understand that.
It's actually something very interesting. And going on exactly with what you've said there is that I quite often have comments with people, and they'll make these, you know, big pronunciations about men and how men do this and talk about it in generalities. And I say, oh, so why does your dad do that? Well, my dad doesn't. Oh, how come your brother does that? Well, he doesn't do it either. Oh, your husband does. No. Your brother? No. Oh, the boys, or the people that you work with. Well, no. Okay. Exactly who in society are you talking about here? And
Yeah.
it always seems to be the other, this mysterious other. The patriarchy is the other. These men who all do this are actually not the men that they know, or the men that they associate with, or the men that they see on a regular level. It might be that they had one or two experiences of things, um, and you know, I could quite happily tell you of many instances where I've been subjected to violence or what have you. And, it's kind of a lot of young blokes, when they go out, they'll get picked. They'll get, and on the basis of them being male, oh, you're a male, I'm a male, let's go, or fights in and around the school because you're male or because they don't like you and they think they can take you, or these things happen. But I wouldn't say that it's systematic. I wouldn't say that it happens more often than not. I wouldn't say that it's a big problem. Um, Yet everything seems to, you give an instance of something happening one or two times, and it's suddenly a systematic thing that happens to everyone all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, yeah, I've been insulted by boys a bit, but I've
mhm,
also been insulted by girls. And
mm,
frankly, I've been more insulted by girls rather than boys. And I
mm,
actually do have a lot of boys who are my friends, and I actually have a boyfriend, I have a dad, I have a brother, I have my cousins who are boys, and yes, I have been insulted. Not by dad, of course, not by my brother, not by my family, but like other guys. But I have more so been insulted by girls. But feminists don't really say that much. They don't say, "Oh, I've just been picked on by boys." Yeah, okay, you have. But I know from my friends who are girls and other people who are girls, other girls, they will say that they've been bullied by boys and they've also been bullied by girls. So it's not just something that boys just do. So you've got to also understand that.
And I'm I'm sick to death, of seeing these feminist narratives just trying to put the burden of every solution at the feet of men, and the the problem, of everything being put to as men. I mean, the whole rape thing, for example. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible subject, um, but the whole rape culture thing is a load of crap. They're trying to make, firstly, it gendered, which it simply isn't. You get horrible, degenerate female rapists as well.
Ooh, I've got one example. Recently there was an episode, called The Simpsons Guy by Family Guy and the maker Seth MacFarlane.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They had a rape joke in there. Rape joke. It was Bart making a prank phone call to Mo as he usually does, and then Stewie tries it out and he says, "Hey, your sister's being raped." Hangs up the phone. The joke wasn't that it was the rape thing, but it was more so of how awkward Bart was. He was just standing there because he doesn't do that. He's 10 years old.
And how horribly, horribly inappropriate it was.
Yeah,
And it was supposed to be.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
what
that was the humour in it, is that it was so left field
inappropriate.
and
And
inappropriate.
that's
Yeah.
why they do have those types of things. Um, their rape statements. It's more. It isn't because they support rape. That's
No,
not at all. It's because it's um inappropriate, and they try and push the boundaries. That's basically what Family Guy is all about.
absolutely.
They're pushing the boundaries. Yes, they've had episodes go off the air because they're so inappropriate. And yes, there's been some rape jokes in there, and movies which have rape jokes and stuff. Um, it's definitely not about the rape joke. It's definitely not about that. It's either the A reaction or B how it states that it's inappropriate. That's why they have that, and that's why they don't have it on children's shows or anything like that. And I just thought I would make that statement.
Yeah, I mean, it's very telling, anything like that, and suddenly the feminists are up in arms. But up in arms about what exactly? Well, rape isn't funny. No one's suggesting it is. Oh well, how come it was in here? Because it being inappropriate was being highlighted by this, and anyone with half a brain cell and would be able to pick that up. Um, now, maybe the feminists who watch it don't have half a brain cell, or perhaps they don't have a sense of humour, or perhaps it is that they can't make the connection. Um, but I mean, that's not the Seth MacFarlane's fault, or that's not the
Frankly,
fault of,
any other director
yeah.
who has previously made that joke in other episodes or movies or anything like that, it's not saying that rape culture is more common for saying rape's okay, because we all know in society that rape isn't okay, except for those psycho murderer people.
Yeah.
It's just saying that rape's inappropriate.
And that's precisely the thing. When we watch it and we've seen it for the first time, and he says that, we go, oh my God, that's terrible.
Why would he say that?
Why would he say that? That's awful.
Yeah.
And because we have that, we see, because it was so awful and so inappropriate, and we had that instant, we, then we start to laugh. We go, oh right, okay, that's what's so funny. That
Yeah.
this horrible, horrible, nasty 2-year-old has just said this horrible, horrible thing on the. It's absolutely, you know, disgusted Bart, and and it's had us, just leaning back in our seats in shock and horror.
And if you do get offended by that, just don't watch those kind of things. Especially don't
Mm.
watch South Park. I have never watched it, but I have friends who watch it, and from some of the stuff they tell me, it is horrible. And they
Yeah.
do that because they're like, as humor wise, it's just horrible. Like, that's. If you feel offended by that, don't go ranting about it on the
Mm.
internet. I mean, yeah, I know people do that, but just um, just like watch some other shows,
I mean,
please.
I personally, I don't like horror films. Um, I see nothing particularly nice about being scared, you know, and I'm not a big wimp, but I can't see anything that I'd gain out of watching things jump out at me, or try and, or something really slashery, gory kind of thing. And I've watched them before. I don't enjoy them. I'd much prefer to see something with um, lots of sword fights and that kind of thing, or you know, laser pistols or whatever it is, that kind of thing. A lot of running cars, all that kind of thing. So that's my kind of deal. I'm pretty happy with that. But get me on to romantic comedies, another one. Oh, no, they don't do much for me. Um, Thrillers I like. Um, and I like drama, some drama. Some drama's dead boring. But certain comedies I like. I don't like slapstick. But I really like a bit of wit and humour. Bit of I guess more the Mister, instead of Mr. Bean, maybe Blackadder. Same actor, different kind of roles. So we've all got things that we like. Now, I consider it my problem if I watch a horror film or if I watch a romantic comedy, knowing that it's not my thing and knowing that it's likely to
Offend you in any
offend me
way.
or upset me, or
Yeah.
it might turn me off or whatever it is, I'm not going to watch it. And if I do watch it, I'm certainly not going to complain about it after and go, oh, da, 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 unless I'm doing a review for this person. So,
Yeah, I made him watch the girly film.
yeah. But that's what feminists do. That and then they'll be selective about it. They'll also, in feminist spaces, they allow a lot of moderation, a lot of censorship, one point of view. Uh, there's a real community around it. It's Erin Pizzi, who is she's my hero. I love Erin Pizzi.
Is she on YouTube or a blog or something?
Yeah, and I'll show
Okay.
you her
We'll
later.
we'll
Yeah.
we'll put a link down below with her in it. So.
She's she was the person who opened up the first women's shelter in England. Um, Brilliant lady, brilliant, brilliant. But she called feminism the evil empire, and she's quite right. It certainly is. It is an empire. It's more than just a movement. There's women who make a lot of money off that. You get a lot of very impressionable women who have been brought up in this, indoctrinated in this culture of fear and victim narratives, overlaid one over the other, who are spending time, freaking out over things like the um, rape culture myth, the wage gap myth, things like this, and take it on face value because these women have told them this and are purporting to be looking after them, and they've been told in academic settings, so they're believing all of this. Certainly, Emma Watson is one of them, and it's getting all of their it's preying on all of their insecurities, all of their fears. So Emma says, "Oh, I was called bossy, so therefore I must be must be oppressed. Yes, I'm an oppressed millionaire at the age of 20. I'm so oppressed. Help me from this oppression of getting lots of money and not being able to have to work ever in my life and spend my time making useless speeches to millions of people. Who wouldn't have that life? Shit, give me half her money. You wouldn't hear a peep from me. Or, alternatively, I'd make all the speeches to whoever you liked about anything. I'd tell people that I loved girly films. I'd be the biggest girly film critic if you pay me enough money. She's a great actress, I'm sure, and I think this UN speech is her acting at her finest. I think she should get an Academy Award because there's certainly nothing
Give
there
her
of
an Oscar.
there's certainly nothing there of merit. He for she is quite sickening. Um, Men, and she did mention in there too, some men's problems, and it was a real token effort. I really think that it was real tokenism at its best because whenever any of the pro media outlets report on it, they'll be saying, "Oh, and it's obviously, she's being fair because she mentioned men." Wow, she must be, a fair indication. Well, what does she say? She says, essentially, okay, you men, you can't express your feelings and you suffer from mental illness and you suffer from all of these things, but don't worry, because all you need to do is forget about all of that and just jump on the bandwagon and look after us, and you'll feel so much
Yeah.
better.
Uh, the thing is, I think a lot of feminists are getting sort of confused by humanism,
Yeah,
and you should actually probably look it up because it is worth looking up.
absolutely.
And I mean, I get some humanists will probably want to label as feminist because otherwise they'll be like, oh, what's humanism? And then you would have to go on about it, and then people will be like, oh, why don't you just call yourself a feminist? Because I'm a humanist. No, no, no. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
that. I get why humanists will call themselves feminists, but you should just probably say, oh, I'm a humanist. Oh, what's that? Gender equality. Okay. That's
ab-
really what it should be.
absolutely. And the thing is too is, and you're quite right with what you've said there. Um, I think if you want to be egalitarian or humanist, it's basically saying that you believe in equality of the genders. If you're a feminist, you're having to take a few positions. More than that. I mean, dictionary definition doesn't impress me. Doesn't impress me at all. You can have equity feminists, which is what Suzannah is talking about. They're people who have been conned into the thought that that's what feminism is and been shown a dictionary definition, gone, oh, well, that's what I am. Only thing is, the things that feminists do in their in the name of feminism isn't about equality. Name me one thing that feminists have done in the last 60 years purely for men that has benefited men um, without it being part of a female agenda.
Without bringing down women and making it equal. Just
Yeah,
name one thing or two things or even 60 things in the comments.
but even better than that, tell me one area that females have been bettered for in society that they've actually fought down and raised men up to meet. They've never done it, but they have promoted women up. There was a huge push where men and boys were outperforming girls in schools. So huge push, lots of programs, lots of bias there to raise women's ability or girls' ability in school academically, and gradually they've gone up and they've gone up and they've kept going up, and boys have been falling. Now, girls well and truly outperform boys, and still the programs are there. Still there's no emphasis on boys. Boys when they fail are told to man up or that it's their fault. Girls when they fail are given support. Um,
And we're not saying this is always the case, but it's most cases. And
Unfortunately,
it does happen at my school, and at my friends' schools and my friends' friends' schools. It does happen. So.
and in university, there's more female graduates. Now, women, women. feminists will come back and say, but the top jobs are still with the boys. It's still a male-dominated thing. Again, a lot of that's choice. Um, if you come out of university with a degree and then decide to become a stay-at-home mum, or decide to have a part-time job, or decide not to specialise in your field, or decide whatever other choice there, then okay, you're not going to perhaps go as high as some guy who's come out who is happy to work overtime, happy to place himself in positions that aren't particularly comfortable, nice, or what have you, but will help him get along. Um, and it's not to say that all women will, but when you look at averages, that's what it's supporting. It's supporting those decisions, and I'm okay with that. If Suzannah said that she wanted to work in an oil rig, um, I would be as concerned as if my boy said he wants to work in an oil rig.
Yeah.
For exactly the same reasons. I don't want either of them to come to harm. I will worry about isolation. I will worry about what if there's bullying. I will worry about all of these types of things. One thing I won't worry about is how much they're going to get paid, because I know they'll get paid the same for the same work.
Yeah.
And they'll get paid a shitload. So
as I said before, if you are getting paid less compared to the man who's working equal hours and the same time, etc., etc., talk to your boss and go to court even, because that's not right. And there are laws that says men and women should be paid equal if they are working same hours, etc., etc. So it isn't because women are being paid less than men in every job. It's because of how much time they put in, and also how much effort even. Like
where they specialise.
Yeah, where they specialise.
Where they work, where they're prepared to go to.